Apparently, it's the summer of David Hasselhoff cameos. At least this one makes sense.
Hey, Steph.
Hey.
New Kids on the Block here is from Iowa.
Oh, man.
Really?
Let me ask you this. A lot of oceans in Iowa?
No, just ponds and lakes and cocky pretty boys. Hey, Mitch, what happened to that last pretty boy recruit we had?
He died.
What is this, lifeguard hazing? I'm Matt Brody. I hold the world record in the 200 meter.
Hey!
Matt Brody.
Matt Brody!
Baywatch stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Zac Efron, among others, coming together to bring back the old Baywatch TV show. I labeled it one of my most anticipated films of the summer. Am I regretting that decision? Well, let's find out with 5 things you might want to know about Baywatch. The answer? No, I don't regret anticipating it. It does make it a little more of a bummer that it's not a great movie, though. Let's get into the details and start with the good stuff. I love Zac Efron and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So great. They're so charismatic. And it almost makes it worse that they are this good in a movie that is this bad, because you feel like there really could have been something. Not only that, I think they're perfectly cast for this material. I think if you take the right angle on this material, those two would be your perfect front and center for what's going on. They elevate the material a little bit, but even their charm and charisma isn't quite enough to make it a great movie. The other thing I liked about this movie is the idea that lifeguards are superheroes. There are some incredible slow motion action shots. I mentioned slow motion, not those slow motion shots. The action shots of diving into the water, of swimming under fire. That stuff really kind of resonated with me. And I feel like if this movie had decided to emphasize the heroic part of the lifeguard's job, instead of just making an occasional thing that happened in the movie, but make that the center of the theme, I think you might have had a different experience here. But because it wanted to be more of a raunch-com rather than a movie that would take itself seriously maybe in some ways, I think it went a different direction. And unfortunately, I think it was the wrong direction, because that superhero stuff I thought really worked. So let's talk about the humor as we take a turn into why this movie doesn't work. Although I'm going to give a yellow for this one, because I actually think the humor might work for some people on this. But I am getting tired of saying this, but I have to say it again. This movie chooses to emphasize the raunch instead of the calm. It's much more interested in genital humor than it is in clever humor. Look, you can make a funny movie for adults and not have to, worry about keeping it quote unquote clean. But that doesn't mean you use only that stuff to shock people and make them laugh. Take a cue from some movies that do try to be from the whole family. Take a cue from Pixar. I laughed more during the first 30 minutes of Inside Out than I laughed during this entire film. That's because you don't have to go there to be funny. You can be clever. You can be interesting. And this movie just doesn't make an effort to do that. Will you laugh? Yeah, I think there are a couple places you will. But if you don't laugh at genital humor, there's going to be quite a few less. But honestly, I don't think it's the humor, mainly, why this movie falls apart. I think it's the story. I think it's way too basic. There's not a lot going on here, which is fine if you want to go all out farce and silliness, like, say, 21 Jump Street. That's a very basic plot. It doesn't have to be anything. It's all about the jokes. But this one decides it kind of wants to be meaningful in some areas. And I alluded to the fact that there are these moments where it takes itself a little bit seriously. And I think some of that has to do with the amazing performance by The Rock. Maybe he's even a little too good in this movie for it to be as silly as maybe they want it to be. But if you make that decision to go all out silly, you don't have to worry about the story being so basic. But if you're going to try to be meaningful, you have to give a little oomph to the storytelling. And it's just not here, and so it feels boring. And here's another thing that I didn't like and didn't work for me. The slow motion jogging on the beach, that hasn't aged well. There's an inherent sexism to it that I think we kind of ignored back when Baywatch was on TV. But this modern era is much more aware of treating women as important solely for how their bodies jiggle. Now, understand, they also did this with the men in this movie. And I think sometimes they think, oh, that's not sexist because we're doing it with both. No, that just means it's doubly sexist, right? Am I wrong on that? Anyway, I felt it was a little almost lecherous at times and kind of bothered me. Overall, though, Baywatch is unfortunately a swing and a miss. There are some laughs here, but for me, it just focused on all the wrong things and ended up with a C-. Thanks for checking out this Your Movie Friend review. We'll be to the Best Ever Challenge here in a bit. Before we get there, let's hang out some more. Hit me up on Twitter at Aaron Dicer, Aarondicer. Love the movie conversations that go on there. We can also hang out at the podcast, Sift Pop, SIFTPOP. It's a weekly hour-long pop culture podcast with a movie review and some other fun games and such. So feel free to subscribe to that wherever you get your podcast. It's there. Just search for Sift Pop, SIFTPOP. You can also hang out on YouTube, hit the subscribe, comment on the videos. Love the community that's building here too. And finally, thank you for your financial support to keep Your Movie Friend going. It means the world to me with a a much smaller YouTube community than some of the, big channels. That is actually where the financial support comes from for me. So thanks for throwing a few bucks my way. It's at patreon.com/yourmoviefriend. All right, on to the Best Ever Challenge, where you name the best movie ever in a particular category. Also try to identify my choice. Let's do the best beach movies ever. Movies that take place on a beach or emphasize a beach, whatever it might be. For me, my clue, I have to go with the one where George Clooney runs funny. Take a guess at mine in the comments. First person to get it right does get a point. As always, I'd love to see your choice there as well. There's some good beach movies out there. I'll give you a few extra seconds here to hit subscribe. Just click on my black and white face when it pops up in that big circle in the center.